Yeah, Agam, I think as Harsh pointed out, the stock is definitely trading at fair to expensive valuation. But I think if you look at the renewable energy space and the funding space, IREDA is one of the primary, or the main funding agencies, and there's been a huge surge in demand for solar and renewable energy projects. So I think over the next say 2 to 3 years, this company can grow exponentially, while valuations may appear a little bit stretched in the very near term. What is important is that they are gunning for at least 25-30% growth on a compounded basis over the next say 2 to 3 years. And I think looking at the kind of profitability track record, I think unless you get the stock at slightly lower levels at say around 250, 240 odd levels, that would be a good entry point for an investor who wants to actually take on the journey for the next couple of years. So it's a good long term bet. But yes, I think in the short term, the stock will remain volatile. And I think, unless we come to know exactly how the fundraise is going to be raising, if it is a pref offer or if it is a QIP, I think the market should obviously like that better. But in case of a follow-on public offer, then we could see a little bit of selling pressure because this typically happens ahead of the follow-on public offer. So I think, these things have to be sorted out. But fundamentally, the company appears to be well positioned over the next, say, 2 years. I think Agam, Bajaj Auto has done remarkably well. If you look at the overall two-wheeler market, I think markets have taken off quite strongly. And I think Bajaj Auto has benefited from the revival in the two-wheeler market. And I think this trend is going to continue. This year, hopefully, with a good monsoon, I think the rural market demand is also going to pick up quite strongly. So that is definitely going to be a good tailwind for Bajaj Auto. As far as the PLI scheme is concerned, once it fructifies, we'll come to know what is the financial benefit the company could enjoy. But I think broadly, I think within the electric vehicle space, the two-wheeler and the three-wheeler space, Bajaj Auto is now making a conscious comeback into this category where growth is very strong. So I think, even at the current odd levels, if someone to take at least a 12 to 15 month view, this could be a good portfolio bet. It's a fairly large player, has a very strong balance sheet, very strong cash flows. And I think once the PLI benefit comes in, that could add into the earnings growth. So, my suggestion is definitely take a slightly medium-term view and definitely hold it in your portfolio. You should be able to get a decent risk reward from here.
Okay.
The note is clearly they have put out a very aggressive target price. But my sense is that even currently, if you look at the overall steel market, globally metal prices have not moved up. China has not been buying of late in a big way. My sense is that the real trigger for Shyam Metallics could come in once global metal prices start moving up. And I think we'll have to wait for maybe a couple of quarters before we get those indications. On a product basis, I think Shyam Metallics has been making a conscious effort to increase the value-added component, and that definitely should improve their margins. But if you see their margins about 2 years back, margins have actually come down. So I think, it's going to be a difficult task for them to improve margins going forward. But overall, I think in the domestic market, specifically in Eastern India, it's a very dominant player. It's got a large capacity to cater to, industries and sectors in the Eastern India market. So I would prefer a hold as of now. I think, the stock has moved up by almost 6-7% once the note has come out. So I would not be in a hurry to buy it immediately. I would prefer to wait for at least another 1 or 2 quarters. And once I get a reasonably good kind of, traction on the numbers, that would obviously help me get a better kind of conviction on the stock. I think although valuations are cheap, but most of the steel companies, if you ask me, don't trade at very expensive multiples. So I think it's a hold. Fresh buying can be considered maybe on declines. So I think Agam, most of the gold jewelry stocks post the budget have done well. In fact, custom duties on gold have come down, and that has been a big lever for a strong demand growth for the gold and jewelry segment, especially in the domestic market. So my sense is that today's action of the promoters buying stock obviously is a kind of a confidence measure. Markets are obviously quite happy about to know that the promoter has shown a strong confidence in the company. But I think operationally, I think FY25 should be a very strong year for the company because overall the gold and jewelry market has been buzzing. Almost all the companies in this space like Senco Gold or typically all the other gold jewelry larger brands like Titan have done remarkably well. And I think this is going to be a kind of a landmark year because obviously gold prices coming down has increased demand prospects. So I think, even at the current odd levels, if someone to take a 12 to 15 month kind of time frame, we could get a good outperformance from Kalyan Jewellers purely on the operational numbers. This deal which has happened is obviously going to be a sentimental booster, but earnings wise, I think we should see very strong numbers coming out for FY25. So any declines, I think, should be used as an opportunity to accumulate the stock in your portfolio.